Good afternoon in the west, good evening in the east, bonsoir, and how's it getting on by Newfoundland and Labrador? The last thing we need in our democracy is another self-obsessed narcissist telling you how to run your life. But thankfully this isn't a democracy, this is just a CBC competition. So as long as I kiss ass hard enough and add a bit of an oofy accent, I'm sure there'll be somebody at CBC who thinks that I'm witty enough to put a... Actually, I retract that statement. By the way, Mr. Mercer, have I ever told you how much I admire your locks? Anyway, je peux parler français aussi, mais évidemment, c'est pas vraiment une compétition pour les francophones. You see, on several counts, I've already demonstrated my mastery of the first rule of democratic advocacy. And contrary to popular belief, the rule is not know thyself. It's know thine audience. And because I know that there are more conservatives than liberals in this prime ministerial audience, my one great idea has nothing to do with the perils of NAFTA. No. My one big idea, my one great idea, has to do with security. Because that's the tie that binds us together. Every unlobotomized Canadian, and there are many, is concerned with having secure streets, finances, or investments. And anyone who was alive on 9/11 knows that there's only one kind of global fundamentalism, and it has nothing to do with sensing imaginary invisible hands. But as we fight the good fundamentalist fight and grow our economy, there is an irritating ilk out there who would distract us from this reality and add environmental security to this long and growing list of threats. Well, I don't believe we should cave in to a group of people who have some deranged obsession with global warming, which is actually, and let's be fair about it here, this is actually national temperature improvement. After all, Canadians suffer long, cold winters. The best thing we could do to cut down on energy use is improve the national temperature. But the alarmists don't stop there. They conflate global warming with global poverty. They're concerned with pollution and toxins. They whine about water shortages, and they sulk about a rate of species loss theoretically unseen since the disappearance of the dinosaurs. They do this despite the fact that most of us are surviving cancer in Canada nowadays, despite the fact that most of us can drive down to Walmart and pick up water for less than the stuff that comes out of the tap, despite the fact that here in Canada, quite frankly, we could do with a few fewer bears, prairie chickens, or pygmy lizards. So until any of these problems start physically rearranging the playlists on our iPods, I'm sorry folks, but there's no domestic emergency. And so we can forgive those Canadians who would just apathetically bang their heads against the wall. They'd simply rather distract themselves with self-inflicted pain than have to listen to more blowhards ironically suck all the oxygen out of the country and somehow fully satisfy themselves at the same time. Although if it is true, if the alarmists were right all along, well, what then? Well, the best we can do, if we only have 10 years to fix it, is stand up and tell India and China where to shove it. The greenhouse gas. But we know they won't listen anyway, so what's the point? Besides, how often do you actually buy something made in China? Exactly, I don't know either. And quite frankly, it's in our national interest not to care. Because by the time we can taste, smell, see, or otherwise fondle any of these persistent organic pollutants in our environment, we'll be so infertile and full of disease that global warming will be the least of our concerns. In that case, we need to think about building more hospitals, not reducing gas, and that requires more investment. You see, we're just thinking ahead. There's no moral and intellectual bankruptcy in our government. What would you have us do exactly? Trade reform, fiscal reform, tighter regulations? Come on, guys, that comes from pre-globalization textbooks. In fact, Canadians don't even read books in university anymore. We don't have the time. The only reason the technocratic status quo hasn't worked for the environment for the past 30 years is because we haven't been believing strongly enough. So here's my one great idea, Canada, and are you ready for it? Because I'm not. Canada's next top model, next great prime minister must believe more strongly, must keep the faith, especially in technology, because look at what the BlackBerry's done for this country. By the time my kids are popping out, the BlackBerry will be managing our solid waste, our liquid waste, our water infrastructure, our oil infrastructure, and whatever else flows through our unmentionables. We have to believe in globalization to start making it work. Only then will these grotesque global cash and product flows solve all other problems, even if they come from China or any of the other world dumping grounds. There's no time for fiscal and aid reform at the national or international levels. We need more debt just to keep the economy from collapsing. And judging by the subprime housing crisis in the US and the UK, we need a lot more of it. Oh, Canada, at one pivotal point in human history, we discover that good personal hygiene, something as simple as washing, could cut down on disease and save lives. And there are those out there trying to fool us into thinking that we're more unhygienic today than we were at any point in our history. Well, have you caught a whiff of yourself recently? I have. And I smell great.